people can interpret these songs however they want. I think some of them are more obvious than others, but I like what you said. Like a lot of them are about self-exploration and like looking within and like, thinking about themes other than like love and loss, which I feel like the pop marketplace is just like completely oversaturated and drowning in and has been for the last 50 years. Like we want to write something like it is a little more fantastic. Like it is a little bit more mystical and it asks harder questions other than just like, she broke my heart or, I left them, they left me kind of thing. So yeah, I think self-exploration. I hope this album gives people the like space to do that while listening.
You're listening to Our Space with Matt Vatisse.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Our Space with Matt Vatisse. As you can see, I got a little bit of sun. My wife says I didn't, but I did. I've got the heat rash to prove it after a weekend at Warped Tour DC, which was super fun. You can go and check out my Instagram and TikToks with a couple of quick little videos, and depending on how much time we have this week, we might actually do a full vlog. So keep an eye open on the Our Space Media YouTube channel for that. Remember to go and hit subscribe there as well. And if you're listening to this podcast on Apple Music or Spotify, go and give us a 5-star review and click that follow button as well. Today's band that we're talking to actually played Warped Tour DC. They're called World's First Cinema, and I haven't really heard anything like this. So we talked a little bit about this new concept, how it feels so natural for them, thinking outside the box musically, how it's all come together. And of course, we even dove a little bit deeper into cinematic themes and scores that they could potentially write for. And it was just overall a very fun chat. I'm really excited for you to hear my conversation with John and Phil. And let's just get right on into it. World's First Cinema's album, Something of Wonder, is going to be released on July 11th through Fearless Records. And we're talking now to Phil and John. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hello.
Hey.
Let's start off our chat on that new album. I want to talk about this right away. Something of Wonder. What's the story behind the title? What can listeners expect that they haven't heard from you before? Like, what's so special about this particular album?
Well, it's our debut, so I mean that's always a pretty special moment for any band, a debut album. It's here we are kind of moment. I think sonically, I think it's special in the sense that it's our debut, but it's not special in the sense that there isn't this long history to try and climb past or evolve into. It's our debut, so it's our moment to come out and show who we are. I mean, we've done a few EPs and there's been a pretty wide net cast of what the sound of World's First Cinema is. So I think what is special about this album is just that it's us kind of trying to collect everything we have done and everything we like to do all in one place, so that if you are discovering the band from the album, which I'd like to hope most people will be because we're still pretty new, then you be able to listen to it and get a very concentrated understanding of what it is we do and what we like to do and what we sound like. It's basically just us as an album, as any debut should be, I think.
And what about you, John? What are your thoughts on this specific debut album? What's really, I guess, resonated with you when it came to writing this and putting this collection of songs into what's going to be your debut album versus the EPs that you've done in the past and the singles that you've dropped?
Yeah. I mean, I guess, like Phil said, it's our debut. And for me, it's even more of a debut because I've never actually released an album as an artist, period. And so for me, this is like an entirely new experience, not just with a new band, but, as a concept as a whole, doing that many tracks, having everything focused, everything flows into one another. Like the project is one unified vision. And I think it's a really nice, charcuterie board selection of the stuff we do as World's First Cinema and like our sounds across the years. consolidated into one feeling and pushed into the future.
It's your first ever album. What's mostly different between the EPs that you've released versus now doing a full album, besides more songs?
Sure. I mean, on paper, it doesn't sound like it's significantly different, 5 or 6 songs versus 10 or 12 songs, but I think there's just weight to an album. No one really cares about an EP. I think like the way that they do about an album, I don't think EPs and singles are as much of a landstone or a landmark for you to like cross as an artist and point to in years to come and be like, oh, wow, like I remember that album cycle. I remember where we were when we put that out.
Was there a particular point or song from this album that really stood out to either of you where you're like, oh yeah, this is it, something that really gave you the goosebumps?
I'd maybe say the song we just released, Broken, just because it's kind of a lot of the things we like to do in one, but it's a very, at the same time, quite different song for us. The production hits quite a different note. And we had a feature, which is our first time ever doing a feature. So that was kind of a cool moment for us. And we did a feature that's quite outside the box. We had like a UK grime rapper on this quite emotional ballad song, kind of like a throwback to the early mid 2000s kind of era tracks that did that kind of flavor, but with the UK side. And yeah, I think that was definitely a moment, at least in my eyes, where it was like, oh, okay, like we're doing something pretty cool here and pretty different. Like this is like, not everyone could do this type of track, I think. Yeah, I'm just proud of that one. I think it really stands up and speaks to what we do.
Yeah, I was going to say, Broken is something different that you've done, especially having a rapper on there as well. What was the decision process behind that? Is it something that you've always wanted to do? Was it something that you networked with a rapper and thought, hey, like what was the decision process behind all of that?
It was just like an organic idea based on the track. Like we'd been working on the song and we'd redone it a few times and tried it a few different ways. And yeah, it was just this very organic moment. I was driving around listening to the song in my car at kind of where it was at that time. I think we'd just done a studio session that day. And I'd been listening to JD Cliff a lot over those couple of weeks. I discovered him for myself not that soon before that. And I just heard the song and I heard the production and I just was like thinking, oh man, I can just so hear someone rapping on this. And it would be so much like one of those early 2000s tracks. And then I started thinking like, who could it be? And I had a little list of a couple options in my head and he was the number one choice. So yeah, I just DM'd him and I was just like, dude, I'm a big fan. Listen, I've got this track. I think you'd be sick on it. I'd love to talk to you about it. And he was like, well, let me hear the song and we can maybe chat. And thankfully for us, he heard it and he liked it. And, the rest is history.
When it comes to Broken, choosing that as a single rather than a surprise for the album for fans, was there like a thought process behind that? Or were you like, no, this is the one that I'm really excited about. Let's drop it as a single before the album comes out.
Yeah, it's a banger. So
yeah, I think it represents, a really nice scope of the album. I think it points towards the future for me a little bit when I think about WFC and where we could go. And I think especially having the feature on it. I mean, JD Cliff just crushed it. Like, why would you not want that to be the tip of the spear going into releasing the album? It's awesome.
Absolutely. It's a brilliant choice. Plus your single, you have another single, End of My Rope. That sort of feels like a score or a climax. And I believe that this was also put out there into the universe is that type of feeling as well. So what inspired that track sonically?
I feel like there's a lot of classic pop punk influence in there in terms of like the melodic writing. But then we took that classic bit of WFC, the cinematic strings and the scoring. Like a lot of other songs on the record, that one was rewritten and reimagined like, I don't know, 3 or 4 times. It feels like we were ironing everything out multiple times with all the songs on the record to get them just right. And yeah, I mean, the inspiration was like really strong core of emotionally driven writing, and then backed with something that felt like pop punk. It felt like rock, but it had this extra element of like orchestral inspiration behind it, which I think is, it's very WFC. I think it's the kind of thing Phil and I love doing.
The whole theme of, World's First Cinema is very obviously pop punk mixed with that cinematic sort of score. So when you're writing a song and, writing I guess a scene to a movie or a score or soundtrack, rather than just writing a hit song, how do you sort of approach that when you're mixing both of your influences and histories into a song?
I don't think it's like a thing that we have to sit down and plan. It is just the culmination of what our music sounds like together. It was always the sort of mission statement of this band. It was always we were trying to make cinematic music. It's only in the sort of growth of it that it's even become as sort of packaged as it has. It started as what was going to just be a sync project for film and television, and we're such pop rock kind of writers as well that like our natural influence was to like produce out these cinematic songs but try and structure them like pop songs, pop rock songs. And I don't know, I think it's not as conscious as all that. It's just we just make a banger and that's what it sounds like. It's but in the good way. It's like if we just let ourselves make a song, what's it going to sound like? And that's what it sounds like. There's not this sort of how do we make it more this, how do we make it more cinematic? It's just that's the natural sound of what our two brains meshed together sound like. That's how we ended up here, I guess.
Yeah. So how did World's First Cinema come together? The idea, I guess, in that first jam session where you're like, holy crap, this is what naturally it sounds like. What was the, origin behind the idea?
Sure. I think, at least for me, and Phil might differ, but like, I feel like it was the first session we ever had together. It was kind of like love at first sight. Like we started working, we made 2 songs that came out as our first 2 songs, which was what was it, Castles and Can't Feel Anything.
Yeah.
And it was immediately just like we made both those in a day, and it was like, oh yeah, here we are. It was just obvious. Like everything sounded so awesome. I was in a place with my old project where I was I was solo, and I was trying to find a way to make the music. I didn't know exactly what it would be, but it basically ended up being WFC. I was trying to find a way to like bust out of that creative box and, explore this more sweeping, huge sound. And then Phil and I worked together, and it was like, oh, this is it. Done. Left the old project. WFC started up probably like a few months later, and that was it.
It's amazing. It's such an out of the box idea where like, 2 worlds can collide and get something so original, which is great. I actually saw a comment on one of your YouTube videos that said, how is it possible for you to drop a song that could easily be the intro of the best mystery series of all time every month? So I want to know from you guys, what is your favorite mystery series? And
yeah, we just need fucking Netflix to come and have a listen and give us one already.
Yeah.
They're sleeping, man. Fucking sleeping.
That's true.
Oh shit, man, that's a big question. There's just so many. A few notable heroes off the top of my head. True Detective's going to be an absolute classic.
Oof.
Yeah. I don't know if we'd call it like a mystery per se, but Night of, the HBO one from a few years back.
Oh yeah, that one was amazing.
Mystery involved, but I wouldn't necessarily brand it as mystery, but
It's a good
thrillery, mystery, crimey kind of thing. But for the sake of time, I'm going to go True Detective as my number 1 for that genre.
Well, that's amazing.
Solid choice.
I think mine, just based off what I've been watching recently, I eagerly await the next season of 3 Body Problem.
Love.
Yeah, incredible.
Sci-fi.
Music's incredible. It leans sci-fi. I don't know if, it's pretty mysterious. I don't know if I'd call it like...
Serious vibes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Yeah, absolutely spooky.
Like if you could write a score for a mystery series that like you also wrote, what would that mystery series be about? What would the mystery be?
It would definitely, it'd be something along those lines. It'd be a very like, it'd be a crime thriller with a lot of like weird folklore related horror elements.
Yeah, I think Dream World, we like get back to our vampires and werewolves roots a little bit.
Yeah, it'd either be like over the top old school horror with like a vampire werewolf situation, or a very like modern surrealist folk thriller. And we'd do the music.
Yeah.
It'd be cool.
Those would be fun to do the music for sure. I feel like with a mystery, would those genres be your favorite, I guess, TV show genres to write scores for?
I think so. Yeah, anything dark is just so fun to play with. I think there's so much more freedom and room for sort of abstract approaches when it comes to like horror and thriller and dark. You know, if you're doing like a drama per se, like that's fun. It's a beautiful way of doing music, but it tends to be a little bit more reserved. It's a little bit more sort of, you're there to support what's happening, you know, in a scene or whatever. Whereas like horror, thriller, crime, anything on the darker side of the spectrum, I think gives way more freedom on the music side.
Yeah, I would agree. I think like I've always been a fantasy nerd. I think that like dark fantasy realm, just like it, like people expect more out of the music when they're like watching that genre of film and TV. They like expect that depth and sweep and impact from the soundtrack.
I feel like a lot of people that are fans of those genres as well actually check out the soundtracks afterwards as well. Whereas like a good drama, I've never looked up the soundtrack to a drama before, or a comedy.
Yeah, I think it's
maybe Severance.
There's some beautiful ones out there that are being slept on, but it's just, I think, as like a genre, it's like it's kind of the same with comedy. Like, I don't think people. The score to a comedy is not usually one of the elements that are overly considered. Whereas, like we said, in horror and anything thriller, dark related, like the score often can stand on its own as something that is talked about, irrespective of the show or film or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's just like the intention behind it. It's like best supporting actor, you know, like that is what the score is in a drama.
Yeah, you also can't get like you can't do a mystery movie without proper music, or else you're completely losing the entire feel. Like the music is half of the feel of a horror, or have you ever watched a horror without the score, without the soundtrack to it? It's just like the silliest shit.
Yeah.
With so much, you know, orchestration and layering in your songs, of course, I think you're a lot more technical than a lot of bands out there doing their thing. When you're writing songs and recording in songs, I've talked to other bands in the past as well that have told me that they've really looked into each and every single layer and have thought about every single damn fill and note and everything in there. Do you find that it's easy to get lost in the sauce with that? Or is it just sort of like, let's let the magic happen and whatever happens, happens?
It's kind of both. It depends song to song. Like some kind of flow out very naturally, and there's never any alternate version of it. And it just kind of like, I don't want to say it right or produces itself, but like the idea of what it should sound like immediately is clear, and the path to get there is clear, and it's just doing it. And then other ones, it can go through so many iterations for us. You know, we've had songs that have started off really stripped back that have ended up really big, or, you know, were light and then got dark, and vice versa. So I think it depends song to song, but, you know, it's always hard not to get sucked in, but that's just the fun of making the music, you know?
Yeah. I mean, speaking to Phil as a producer too, like he's a very precision based guy. So I think like part of the fun of this project is like really digging into things on a minuscule level while still retaining that like lightning in a bottle feel. That's so important for a good song.
Absolutely. And on top of the technical side of the music that you guys write, a lot of your lyrics also have a lot of themes of, identity or doubt in there. What do you hope that people feel when listening to this record from start to finish?
Doubt.
I'll ever listen to anything as good ever again.
Yeah, I think. I guess I hope that people can interpret these songs however they want. I think some of them are more obvious than others, but I like what you said. Like a lot of them are about self-exploration and like looking within and like, thinking about themes other than like love and loss, which I feel like the pop marketplace is just like completely oversaturated and drowning in and has been for the last 50 years. Like we want to write something like it is a little more fantastic. Like it is a little bit more mystical and it asks harder questions other than just like, she broke my heart or, I left them, they left me kind of thing. So yeah, I think self-exploration. I hope this album gives people the like space to do that while listening.
Yeah, I think it's just like, I hope that people recognize just sort of what we're trying to achieve. We're obviously like film fans, and that kind of feeling you get from a film, everyone is so individual. Whereas like I think with a lot of mainstream music today, and this isn't to say there's anything wrong with that, because I'm an avid consumer of all of it and I live and breathe it and I love it. But like there is just so much repeated music and all of it has the same feel. It's like almost at the point now where half of them is like you fucking can't even tell which band it is because it's the same song, it's the same producer, it's the same fucking thing. So I think, I don't know, just trying to do something a bit different, trying to do something a bit fun, and like that stuff is great and I'm always going to go back to that. But like, each one of our songs is supposed to feel like its own little moment. And I think where I think most bands kind of have this feeling where it's like, that's the band you listen to and you feel like this. And that's great because that's kind of what they do and it's their sound and it's their purpose. We do that by the song rather than by the project. Like we have like really soft ballad heartbreak songs, and then we have weird, dark, heavy songs about fucking vampires. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I just hope people like it as an individual thing, and if they don't, that's fine too.
I know a lot of albums tell a story, and I'm a big album listener. Like I'm the type of person where I'd much rather listen to an album than a playlist, because I feel like the album is the way that the artist intended you to listen to their music from start to finish, right? Sometimes a song, like you'll hear artists, they release singles, and I'm like, not too high on that single when it first gets released, but then I hear it in the full form of the album, and all of a sudden that single blows up and it's incredible to me now, because I'm like, it was placed perfectly between the song before it and the song after it, that it just sort of amplifies the entire feel of the album, the song, everything, right? So with that being said, what story, track by track, is there a story? I know you said different songs tell a different story, but start to finish on this album, what story do you want people
I don't think that the album is telling one story per se. Like I wouldn't feel comfortable saying that, all 11 songs are telling one story. And that's kind of like what I was talking about before. That's like on purpose, for us. Yes, there's songs that follow on from one another, and yes, there's through lines, but like each song is its own story. That's kind of the point for us. It's kind of like
a collection of multiple mini stories.
Yeah,
basically.
like we've always kind of said this thing that, and it's part of our process of writing. We don't sit down with a song and think about like, oh, like what have we been going through lately? We think of it in terms of like a film that doesn't exist. Like, what film does this song go on? Like, what story is this song telling? So that when you listen to it, you can imagine these pictures in your head that relate to that song. And yeah, they might not necessarily relate to the next one literally, but once you listen to them all together, I think the way they glue together, or the whole point is that like it gives this overarching sense of like cinema and kind of size and grandiose and theater and kind of like you know, I guess the through line is the band. It's this like cinematic pop rock project, rather than like one story that we're trying to tell per se.
I think to add to that too, we have these interludes that go in between every single song that are like fully instrumental, symphonic, usually like violin led pieces that are based on the preceding piece and then flow into the next one. And so when you talk about like telling a story, or for us, I guess like a journey, once the deluxe version of this album is out, you'll be able to listen to it with like every single song will have its own symphonic like mesh in between the next one. And so it is like this kind of series of like little film vignettes that you get to like walk through. That's the story we're telling with the album.
I love that. And of course, you like genres, I feel like aren't really a thing for World First Cinema. You just kind of do what feels right for you. You're sort of in a category of your own, which I feel like, you know, most of the best bands usually are, right? You think outside the box instead of playing within it. But with that being said, there also has to be some sort of, I don't know if it would be like a pressure, or maybe you can speak to this a lot more. Like, how do you stay creatively thinking outside the box and staying in and like creating your own lane, right? And not falling into the old trap of it's a pop punk song.
It's kind of like what we said before, where like for us, it's pretty unconscious. We don't really have to plan it that hard. It's just kind of naturally how the songs end up sounding. I mean, there's definitely songs that lean more to the sort of straighter path, or, you know, I don't want to use the word generic, but like the slightly more expected sounds of certain areas of the scene. But that's just our way of like flexing that muscle as well. And kind of like, you know, at times a song we might write is more appropriate in that sense. And other times a song might be, it has to be weirder. So I don't think we really think about it all that much. I think that, like I said earlier, what we naturally make without even considering anyone else's sort of take on whether it fits for us is what it is. And we've been doing it long enough now that we have a pretty good sense of whether it works or not. And that's where like the cinematic aspect comes in and kind of helps funnel the songs through the needle. Because it doesn't happen a lot, but, you know, we do every now and again, we write a song where it's like, this is a really cool song, but like, it's just not World's First Cinema. This is like a pop song, or this is a rock song, like us. And like, we might try and like finesse the production to make it feel that way, but it just doesn't work. There's just this kind of like ethereal quality to the songs where we just instinctively know. And I think it's seldom, if ever, that there's been one where one of us thinks it fits and one of us doesn't. It's pretty much always very clear whether it is World's First Cinema or not, you know?
So it sounds like you've written a whole bunch of songs that you've left on the cutting room floor as well.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, I don't even know how
like
many were written.
Like it's usually like the first sort of verse chorus of a song. We almost like know then and there whether it's like going to work or not.
I mean, that, and there are some fully fledged pieces that we have just like left behind. Like, I mean, I forget about them, but when I dig back through the like Dropbox libraries of all our crap that we've written, I'm like, oh my God, that song's like done. We decided against it, you know?
Yeah.
That's cool. But I think that's what makes it cool is, you know, really thinning out and like selecting the best tracks.
Mm-hmm.
If I know we kind of touched on mysteries and genres, but if something of wonder, if this album and your band were a movie, now what movie would it be?
Oof.
Oh man,
I mean, it'd have to be something that hits a few different points. Yeah, I mean, there's some dark stuff, but there's some light stuff, so it would have to be something that touches on a few different things. I mean, I don't know. It'd be a few different. I mean, that's the whole point, that it hits all different notes, you know.
The vision was based on your boy Jodorowsky when it came to like the visual aspect of it. I mean, does that apply?
Yeah, definitely in just terms of the branding and the kind of journey of the artistic direction. But I don't know that I would necessarily collate that to the sound. Maybe on some subconscious level, but I don't know. If I had to pick one film, we'll just say let's say Interstellar, because everybody thinks that's the best movie ever made. So if we're in it's that.
I like it. It's, a layered movie, and also, people love it.
Yeah. Missing a little bit of like horror. I think if it was to be related to us, I don't think the movie's missing horror. I don't know. The honest answer, I don't know. I don't think there is a movie.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
You're not going to make the movie, I guess. That's the only way to do it.
Making your own movie. But I feel like that would also be on brand for World First Cinema. You're kind of doing that right now with your album and as a band.
We just
that'd be amazing.
To us first. So
we just need a couple $1 million.
Yeah. We'll make a movie. We need more listeners first.
First step is checking out Something of Wonder, July 11th. It's going to be out Spotify, Apple Music, everywhere you stream music. Please remember to pre-save that. While you're on Spotify doing that, also remember to check out the podcast and hit follow and rate it 5 stars as well. One more question before we wrap things up, because one of the big themes of Our Space with Matt Vatisse is continuing to grow the music scene and, grow other bands. Are there any underrated bands that you feel like are killing it right now that deserve to be checked out as well?
Game. I am in a perpetual state of living this game all times. Like, I live and breathe this game of trying to find the new thing, and I play it with myself and some friends. So this is like the most fun question for me. If I'm only going to give one today, just because I was listening to him today, my vote today is going to be this kid Woody. I don't know why I said kid. That sounded really patronizing. I don't know how old he is. I mean, he's like 45. He looks fun. So he's 22. So, okay. I say that in like the best way. No, this guy Woody, he's from the UK. He just put out like a debut, like literally a couple of months ago. He had like, I think when I found him, he had like 4,000 monthly listeners or something. He's at 22,000 now, which is obviously still not much. To me, he sounds like Bon Iver meets McGee, and I'm putting chips down. Damn. He's going to be huge. The production is insane. I don't really know the story per se. I'm confident, and I could be wrong, I'm confident that he's producing everything himself. But even if he isn't, whatever, like, yeah, he's absolutely filthy. The songs, the production, the whole thing is just so fucking good. And I've been listening to it a ton. And yeah, man, you heard it.
His name is just Woody.
Woody, yeah. Woody.
Man, do you know him, or how did you find him?
I honestly don't remember. I go on these like rabbit holes on like Spotify and playlists and Instagram, and I don't know. I'll just spend an hour just like clicking buttons and trying to find something. And every now and again I hear something and I'm like, oh, damn, that was sick. And so yeah, that would be my vote today. I think he's so sick, and I think that there's going to be a lot more from him. That's my vote.
That. What about you, John?
That's cool. Mine was a rec from a friend who had worked with them on some stuff, and it's this girl Nat, Gnat, and she's super tiny, like 500 monthly listeners, but she's got some really cool stuff in the works that I probably like not supposed to know or talk about, but her song Phil is insane. I mean, the writing is just like out of control. Her voice, out of control, emotional, beautiful, lilting. Like, she's got this like folk, darker, grungy thing going on that's just like crazy. That would be my chip that I would spend today, is Nat, Gnat. Super cool.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for sharing that, and for, sharing your stories with us about Something of Wonder and World's First Cinema. So thank you again, John and Phil, for coming on the show. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Our Space with Matt Vatisse. If you enjoyed yourself, please support the show by subscribing and leaving a review.